Yo, what's up, 828 fam? Coach Rees here, and I got our favorite guy, LG, in the space with us. As you guys know, here at 828, our focus is on equity and access, but we are really committed to helping you grow as people, right? Holistically as well. We know it's still the new year, and so one thing that we want to bring up today is we want to talk about habits, right? Our personal development really hinges on our ability to have the right habits. So today we're going to take a deep dive into a book that we've been reading. As you can see, we've been devouring it. I'm gonna The Power of Habit. And the thing about habits is we're a combination of our habits, right? Whether they're good habits or bad habits. And so I'm excited to have LG here with us today to be able to tell a story about how habits have changed his life and some key takeaways from this book.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate being on, sharing this space with you, Coach Rees. And yeah, habit formation was a big deal reading that book because I got to hear the brain science behind it, right? Like the neurological cravings and pathways that are formed when habits are formed. And though I knew how powerful habits were, but to just get it from the way that our brains operate, it just clicked. And one of the things that it hit me right away is actually kind of a two-part story. The first story is recognizing some of the habit formations that were showing up in my life when I took this thing called the energy audit. And it's a tool that in prior life that we would take every year. And this energy audit would tell you how you're doing mentally, how you're doing emotionally, how you're doing spiritually, how you're doing physically. And there's a series of questions they would ask, and you would have to put kind of a number of whether or not you're doing it or not and to what degree. And when I got to that physical part, I was pretty embarrassed. It was like one of those things like, gosh, if I keep this up, I have no idea what my life or maybe what I would even look like. And I want you to take a look at this picture right up there. And you know what I describe as, man, that was just that's a dad bod, right? Like I'm just a dad, like I obviously love my family. I wasn't really concerned about like how I dress or how I look much. I was just concerned about doing the right thing every day, making sure I show up for my family, and just being a person of sacrifice was kind of how I defined manhood at the time, and to some degree still do, is the level of sacrifice that I would give and put out that determine my value and my decision makings. But I remember when Talisha asked me, she goes, so like, what happened to this cool dude that has swag from LA? Like, what happened to that dude? And at that time, I think I might have even had a hole in the bottom of my shoe. I just didn't have it all together. It wasn't really a focus. I remember one of my best friends growing up. I went down to LA, and I was just coming out the airport. I don't even remember what I was wearing, but I do remember what he said to me. He said, "Man, L, you don't even care about gear no more, do you?" I was like, "Oh, man," you know what I mean? So combination of me taking this energy audit, combination of my wife asking me about my swag, and then my dude coming in, I was like, okay, some things need to change, right? And so I started going into this journey about what are the things necessary for me to just start shifting my lifestyle in regards to my health, in regards to my mental health, my physical health. And I really wanted to focus on that physical piece early on. And one of the things that really hit me early on about this book, it talks about this system, if you will, of how habits form. And it's called a cue, a routine, and a reward. And what's really fascinating about this kind of system of cue, routine, reward, if you have a strong enough cue and your reward is satisfying, any routine becomes easy. So when folks start hearing about, oh man, you get up at 4:30 every day, or you get up at 5, or that's kind of what one of the things that me and Reese do. We get up early, but after a while, it just becomes a thing. It's not anything kind of more strenuous on our bodies or on our minds. And that's the amazing part about the human design, is that once we've kind of determined the right reward system, and for me, I just like being in a sauna, right? So that is what my reward is. But then my cue is my gym bag, right? So I see it every morning, right? I see it before I go to sleep, and I see it every morning, and it cues, and then I have the right stuff with it. So I've got my towel, I've got my, I got all the things that I know, and it triggers what is going to be my experience going to bed and what's going to be going up. So now I've got a cue. I know what my reward is, and the routine is just getting into the gym. And that leads me to point number 2. 40% of our life is on automatic. In other words, there are daily activities that we do every single day that it does not require thinking. Kind of like this. We wake up every morning, and I imagine we brush our teeth. I hope we all do out here. So when you go, Reese, don't do that. So, when we go brush our teeth, think about it. We start at the same place every morning. Think about that. Every single morning, you're starting at the same place, not even think about it. When you hop in the shower, you start at the same body part every single morning. And me learning this brain science of why our brain is working off efficiency, right? It's always trying to find a way to take shortcuts, to catalog things. But this is also, if we want to go into the equity space, this is why bias is created, right? Because it's just taking shortcuts to try to create more space for more activities, for more learning, and for more things. And so us just recognizing bias is just really a setup to take shortcuts is where the shortcomings happen when we're talking about interacting with people. Again, I'm gonna be on my equity stuff, so let me just move that out the way, but that's important for us to recognize how it works. And so me understanding just the cue routine reward system, me understanding that all I need to do is find a way to put this on autopilot, right, was the beginning of like this amazing journey of health for me. And honestly, Coach Rees, it's the one thing I never really talked about as much. I don't know why, maybe you got to put me on the couch and figure out why I never really talked about my physical health journey and stuff like that. But, to be quite honest, it's the number one thing that's changed everything in my life, everything, because it set everything in motion for me, which leads to point number 3 for me, which is keystone habits. What's so fascinating when you study this concept called keystone habits, what they tell us is that we don't have to get everything prioritized right in order for us to be successful. We just need to get a few things right that work as powerful levers, right? That work as almost kind of leverage to knocking out or knocking down all the other things that we want to get done throughout our day. And so when I identified and recognized like exercise was one thing that set up 5 other good habits in my life, I'm always looking for the cheat code. I don't know about you, Coach Rees. I'm always looking for the cheat code. So me knowing that that was the one thing that helped me actually think clearer in the morning. It actually helped me start meditating. It actually set the right eating habits for me for the day, right? It allowed the drive and the focus. So I used to have my peak time in work at about 11:30, 12. I'm now getting it at 9:30, right? Like, and I'm talking about fully functional, like at my peak. So anyway, tell me about what you're getting, Coach Rees, out of this.
Listen, it's funny because I feel like I can catch so much out of what you just said, and I'll go quick. So when I think about me and when habits really started to kick in, it was actually before I read the book, but reading the book for me was confirmation that I wasn't off, right? And it's funny because I was going to say that I wasn't crazy, but I actually see crazy as a compliment because people might see people like us, and when we tell them our habits or we tell them what we do or they see what we do, they're like, man, you're crazy. And I take that as a compliment because it's my habits that allow me to perform the way that I perform, as long as I perform, as high as I perform. Yeah. And it hasn't always been this way. So for me, it started back when I was like 18. And so my numbers, right, my equity or my energy audit was being a college basketball player and being a freshman. Nobody taught me how to be a college athlete. So I'm coming in, right out of high school thinking I know what I'm doing and how to do it. Man, we had a team audit. We had a performance audit. We had a where do you think that this player lines up audit. And my ego was like, oh, okay, bet. And I almost failed out of school too. So not only was I not as good as I thought I was on the court, I wasn't that great of a student. So I took those 2 numbers and said, if I want different, I literally have to be different. And that's how my habit journey started, about 12 some years ago. And, fast forward, I'm doing a lot of the same stuff. And so what's funny is I just went viral on TikTok, and a lot of people are looking at my schedule like, yo, that's crazy. But to me, I've been doing this for 12 years. Right. So they're seeing something that took time, that I invested in these habits. And so that's one thing. It's really a lifestyle change. A habit change is a lifestyle change.
Yeah,
Your lifestyle is going to tell you what your habits are. So if you're unaware of what your habits are, just look at your lifestyle. What are
yeah.
the things that you do every day, or what are things that you want to do every day? What are the things that your best self does every day that you currently do not do? So
Ooh,
that's one way for you to be able to look at and figure out, what do I need to add and what do I need to subtract? And I'll tell you this, sometimes there's addition by subtraction, and that goes also with our habits. So
yeah.
what do you need to subtract from your life in order to add for your life when it comes to your habits? So my key takeaways from the book, number one is, when you change your habits, make it for something that you look forward to. My best self does this. So when I implement this habit, that's going to allow me to operate as my best self, as my highest self. So think about that. If I put a habit in, make sure it's something you can look forward to, whether it is, eating good, working out, or being more consistent, communication, whatever that may be. The other one is, know there's going to be sacrifices. That's something that a lot of times you don't really think about when it comes to a habit. We think about that when it comes to goals, but when it comes to habits, your habits kind of are goals. It's something that you want to see happen, right? So know there's going to be sacrifices. And one thing I'll add to that too is, put your village on notice. If there's a new habit that you want to implement, put your village on notice. I don't do this anymore, right? And speaking yourself in present tense. My best self doesn't do this, so help me not do this. I need that accountability, right? You can't just expect the people in your village to just know unless you say something, right? Because you're going to need that support to add or take away your current habits. And then the last thing I'll say is, habits have a snowball effect. The same way, you just said you started working out, you got that cue. You started working out, and then you started eating better. You started dressing better. Your confidence grew. You got your silky, hair going on, all types of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, the hair texture ain't even the same from the last pic to this pic. And
Come
so,
on. Is that what we doing? Is that
look,
what we doing?
I'm just saying, you're not the swaggy L. I'm sure Katz was looking at you like, wait, that was you? But that's the thing, right? Your whole life ends up changing, and it's a snowball effect that literally, when you implement great habits, you end up becoming, your best self. And so I'm gonna ask you guys this, or I'm gonna encourage you to do this. Look at your current habits and see what habit can you implement that's gonna impact 3 other areas of your life.
That's good.
What one habit can you implement that's gonna impact 3 other areas of your life?
Can I
Go ahead,
I
LG.
just want to share just on that note that the awesome thing about this discussion and people exploring this, you're probably already doing something. You just haven't been doing it long enough, or you haven't given it the intention, right? With the intention that's needed. And so just going back to what you just said, Coach Rees, is like identifying what's that one habit. It's probably already something that you're already doing. It just needs a little bit more attention. That's
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
build upon that, right?
Yeah. Intentionality changes the game,
Yeah.
because once you're more intentional, then you find your cue,
Yep.
right? And then also know the reward, right? For me, it was, I didn't want to suck at hoop anymore, and I didn't want to fail out of school, right? Fast forward 12 years, I'm reaping the benefits of habits that I set in motion 12 years ago.
Yep.
Same for you, right? You're reaping the benefits of habits you set in motion 10 years ago. So
Right.
we're the people we are today because of the habits that we intentionally decided to implement in our life 10 years ago. So I'm going to ask you, what are the habits you're going to intentionally set into motion today so you can be the person you want to be in 10 years?
Boom. Appreciate you, Coach Rees. We got another
Absolutely.
one coming soon. All right, y'all.
Word.
Peace.